Anthony Jeselnik is a man of few words.
I lost my grandfather in the Holocaust Museum.
Rightly so. He's a busy guy.
I don't believe in too soon. I'm on a tight schedule.
Broadly speaking, we have jokes. These jokes have a premise and a punchline, and if both of those things fit snugly into a single sentence, you have what's called a one-liner. Jeselnik really likes one-liners.
Like when I was a kid, I never got to take swimming lessons. No, my dad would just pick me up and throw me in the water to teach himself CPR. My mom and dad once made me smoke an entire pack of cigarettes. An entire pack of cigarettes in one sitting, just to teach me an important lesson about brand loyalty.
And he's not the only one.
I used to do drugs. I still do, but I used to too.
But Jeselnik strikes me as an interesting case study because most of his jokes are similar in that they're very short and his persona is generally antagonistic, which doesn't leave a lot of room for fluffy or lazy jokes. I find Jeselnik interesting for two reasons. One, all of his jokes are very similar, and two, his jokes actually have a lot of variety to them. In fact, I would go as far as to say that Jeselnik is probably the comedian who's most explored and fleshed out all the different ways in which you can tell a one-liner. He finds clever ways to drop the other foot, he repeats premises to heighten suspense, he takes the low road to keep you guessing, and he keeps you engaged by making you read between the lines. This is only broken up by sporadic bursts of personality, which is best demonstrated through his use of crowd work, which also follows a similarly staccato rhythm.
I get to live my dream. I mean, not when I'm in San Francisco, but for the most part.
Starting at the center, one-liners are the core of Jeselnik's comedy. Therefore, it would make sense that everything would revolve around them. Jeselnik knows exactly how to tell a one-liner. Their premises are neither complicated nor exotic. You're able to grasp the whole scene quickly with little effort.
This is a little sad. I got a phone call late last night telling me that my grandmother only has a day left to live.
Easy, right? Your mind has no trouble grasping that premise, which leaves it open and available for whatever punchline is about to come your way.
And I don't want this to sound cold, but I am not gonna pay the ransom.
It's almost too simple of a joke. What you need to understand is that Jeselnik drops his shoes one at a time, with expert precision. That's his foundation. Then, on top of this, he's built his church. One of the benefits to having a known style, and something that Jeselnik takes full advantage of, is the probability that the audience will come to anticipate exactly where you're going with a joke. This is something that will be familiar to anyone who's watched my video on Abbott and Costello. And like that dynamic duo, it gives you room to play with the audience's headspace. Understanding and setting up a known path allows you to, with some confidence, set the audience up to be knocked down.
Hell, the other night I was driving my car. And I ran over a deer. A deer friend.
Which is not a wholly separate strategy from the one used by Abbott and Costello.
The guy is running to first base, Ivan. I want to throw the guy out. So I throw the ball to who? Naturally. I throw it to who? Naturally. And who's got it? Naturally. So I pick up the ball and I throw it to Natural. No.
Another strategy would be to set yourself up to take the low road and stop a joke short, which can throw the audience off if they thought that the joke was going to go on a little bit longer than it ended up running.
I remember when I was 13, my mom got diagnosed with Parkinson's, and my dad just gave up immediately. Said, I can't deal with this, I can't live like this, and packed up his car. So as a 13-year-old boy, I had to be the one to roll up my sleeves and say, okay, guess I'm going with Dad.
Also, if you're known for a particular style of joke, and therefore a particular style of punchline, you can actually communicate this punchline implicitly and get the audience to read between the lines and interpret a joke with practically no words at all.
One year in the 5th grade, one of my classmates got cancer. Came down with the cancer, which was sad. But the story is actually cool and inspiring. Every single guy in the school, we all shaved our heads to make fun of them.
The worst thing about these jokes more or less comes out of the best thing about these jokes, which is that they almost require you to know who Jeselnik is and what he is like. For example, his obsession with dead babies.
And people get weird when kids die.
Just listen to the audience react to that setup. Or his fantasy of killing those closest to him.
I've spent the past 2 years looking for my ex-girlfriend's killer. But no one will do it. I said, oh, I'm sorry, baby. Let me change that. I'd have lunch with you, and you'd be dead.
And since you can't assume that everybody in the audience is familiar with your work, Jeselnik makes sure to convey his personality with the audience quickly and incessantly, typically by interacting with his audience through the use of crowd work.
You.
Crowd work, for me, is a tricky proposition which always puts me on edge. If you're going to do crowd work, my suggestion would be to treat it like a cross-examination. Have a game plan, know what you want to get out of it, and don't ask any questions which could paint you into a corner. If not, you could end up like poor Stuart Lee.
It is stamped. This has never ever taken this long. And it would be the night it's... There's not 7 stamps on it. Right, look.
In this example, Lee basically allows the entire setup to hinge on the audience member giving a specific answer. When the member refuses to give this answer, the entire thing unravels, and the show more or less comes to a stop while they sort this out.
It's not even a stamp. It is a stamp.
Also, you'll notice here that Lee has elevated this audience member above himself, which can work so long as you're still in control of the narrative.
It's important before I tell you this portion of the story to remind you that you're on my side.
But if you're not, you've now made someone else the funniest person in the room.
As far as I'm concerned...
Needless to say, Jeselnik is not that careless. No one can be superior to him. It wouldn't work with the whole persona he's going for. And he's able to maintain his superiority with a good game plan and a solid ability to think on his
Like
feet.
that, actually. Yeah. This is how hard I'm fucking killing. You're disabled. I know you're disabled. You win things on the radio. Follow-up question, how'd you get tickets to this?
He maintains his authority in this manner because he has a plan. The questions are open-ended, nothing particularly hinges on them, and if he doesn't like an answer, he just berates them until he finds something he can use.
I'm a branch manager.
Like for a bank?
No,
For a Pizza Hut? What? What the fuck?
Then, on top of that, he looks for and seizes any opportunity to assert that he is the one in charge.
I can tell you're local because of how cool you are. What do you want to do? Travel the world. It's good to have a dream. I hope you go for it. I mean, it doesn't sound like you're even going to get close. I think you should do it.
Basically, Jeselnik gets off on being withholding, and so far, it's a winning strategy. Jeselnik is an interesting inverse to Brent Morin, because both have chosen to focus on a single aspect of comedy and master it completely. However, while Brent Morin has chosen to master telling very long, interconnected jokes, Jeselnik has mastered the ability to tell very short, disjoint jokes, which, despite their similarities, have produced very distinctive results.